Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Anime Crossing, where a bunch of nerdy ass weebs sit around discussing anime. And with me today, as usual, I have some beautiful people.
Hey everybody, I'm the Bane Hero. I guess I'm one of the beautiful people. Thank you. Hope you've been doing good.
It's uh, it's your boy, Baja Irish Rico.
It gets me every time. Hey guys, it's Ryan. How's it going?
Hey, it's Vignesh.
And Amish. For this episode, it's actually probably going to be a little bit of a shorter one, but we say that it might be really long. Who knows? We're going to talk about God of High School on today's episode. It's anime by Studio Mappa, based on a webtoon that just finished its first season a couple weeks ago. So it's all kind of fresh on our minds here. So we figured it'd be a good time to take a look at it because it has sparked some controversy in the community, to say the least. So I wanted to get everybody's thoughts on that. So let's go through our usual. So everybody just kind of let us know what you guys thought about it overall. No need to dive deep yet, and we'll kind of get into it from there. Go ahead, Josh.
All right, so kind of the things that I was first really compelled to see what answers would come from it is the start of the show, and it starts with a bang, literally, and I mean it's really fast paced, and there's a whole lot that happens, and I'm not sure why. And I guess we'll just go into it. The main characters were, I mean, they're silhouettes. I always like to judge characters by their silhouettes to see if they're iconic. If there are any iconic symbolisms or things that you can pull from them to like carry into different fan art, for example, like a chibi version. And I gotta say, aside from the main guy with the goggles, I forget his name. He aside from them, the others are kind of forgettable in design. But yeah, other than that, like a lot of things happen, and that's mainly how I feel about it.
So, I honestly I really like enjoyed the characters. Like, I know they were simple, but I found them very likable. I thought it was enjoyable. Um, the obvious things, the action is top notch, like just phenomenal in a lot of ways. Very creative in its choreography, just very, very beautifully drawn. The music is top tier. And I think from like more of a superficial point of view, the show is very enjoyable, and I think it has a lot of potential and a lot of lore. But as we get into it, I think there's a few big shonen sins they did, and in addition to the obvious points where the story is just kind of very muddled and they went through way too many chapters for a single 13 episode show.
My thoughts on it was I enjoyed the fighting. I enjoyed the music, as everybody else does. David's like, oh yeah, the characters are really likable, and I agree with that. But at the same time, I feel like there's not enough about them given to make them likable. There's not enough context. There's not enough story. I mean, there's so much things that happen in the show that just get blown by, and you're just so freaking confused at the whole entire time. Like, when did Dway get his freaking superpower? When did this happen? When did that happen? Why is this guy like this? And I mean, they skipped like 60 chapters in the manga to go to one episode. I'm just like, dude, this is kind of insane. Like, things are just kind of put there, and then you get taken away with punchy punchy boom boom pow fights that's just kind of make it happen and kind of thrown all together. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you turn off your brain and watch the show, you're like, yeah, this is kind of cool. I see combo fights, I go back and forth, I see explosion, I'm happy. But if you're looking from like a story standpoint, most of it is just non-existent.
Mic on.
I'm done.
Iggy, you there?
We can fix this in post.
He seems to have some
No.
It's okay. I'll go ahead first then. So kind of similar vibes from my end.
Okay.
Oh, are you back? Go ahead, dude.
Go ahead and
Yeah, go.
finish.
Okay.
What's up?
So from my perspective, I The thing is, like, I never expected this anime to be like, some amazing, narrative, plot driven, character driven thing at all. Just based on like what I've heard about it before it came out. And also something to clarify for the audience, like none of us have read the webtoon. As far as I'm aware. I started reading it afterwards, but I won't talk about that. But so what little I've heard about it, I've heard things like, oh, this is Korea's Bleach or Korea's DBZ, and just based on those like descriptions, I never expected the narrative to be its strong suit. But at the same time, there barely is one. So it was like the opposite extreme where it's like, okay, I expected there to be minimal story, but there basically wasn't any. Which definitely was a big problem. And yeah, the fights were well done for the most part. I would say there are some fights that are like subpar compared to like the first couple episodes and like the last one, in particular. I still feel like those were the peak fights in the show. The ones in the middle were a little bit weaker. Definitely better than a lot of your average shonen though, for sure. Mappa definitely flexes a lot of their skills in this one. And it not knowing anything about it, it definitely caught me off guard when we went from relatively grounded but slightly extreme martial arts to like laser beams. And I was like, okay, now I understand the DBZ and Bleach references. I get it. And because of that, for me, the combat became a little bit less interesting because like when you start by close hand, close quarters combat, and then you have characters that can just summon like a giant dragon that can just breathe fire across an entire city, and like gods are raining from the sky, I'm just like, I don't know how to follow this anymore. But yeah, this anime is definitely a good example of like style over substance, and it definitely had a lot of production issues. People stand the webtoon, and they say the pacing is a lot better there, and the production definitely reared its head here and probably negatively impacted it a lot more than it should have. So I don't really blame Mappa. I blame Crunchyroll for deciding to crunch it like that. But yeah, I mean, we'll definitely get more into it here. Viggy, you want to share your thoughts?
Yeah, so overall I really enjoyed it. So I never read the webtoon or anything like that, but I do like know people that have, and they were like praising the crap out of it before the anime even existed or got announced. So I was like, okay, cool. Now I can, in a way, start to understand. Okay, what's the appeal of this XYZ? I had a lot of the same issues that a lot of people here have voiced. Story is kind of shot up to pieces just because it's like the premise is so simple and you only had to do so much, and they managed to even somehow screw that up. So it's a little baffling. They also just throw concepts left. They introduce concepts really fast. They don't explain any of them. You're on like a roller coaster without any like notion of where it's going, and it goes into some weird places. So near the end of it, I just kind of took the Transformers movie approach of just turn brain off, watch robots shoot laser beams at each other, and things explode. I am kind of disappointed in that, like, because of the pedigree the manhwa has for this thing, it is in a lot of ways a very important anime, in that if this, it's a webtoon, right? So if this, like, webtoon adaptation doesn't work, I think pervading fear is just like, will any webtoon adaptation work? So in that sense, it's significant. End result is mixed bag. I enjoyed parts of it on like a superficial level, but I definitely turned my brain off at a point just because there wasn't a lot of substance.
No, that's definitely fair. You bring up a good point about the webtoon stuff because in contrast to this, the other webtoon adaptation that we have is Tower of God, and I'm not gonna go super into that, but like that has its own flaws, but it didn't face the same amount of crunch that the show did. Having seen that, and the pacing was much better if the individual like fights and animation quality wasn't like as good, but the pacing did not suffer when I watched that in comparison. So webtoons, I think we have one good example so far of pacing that can still be done well, and then we have a really horrible example of that. And there's definitely more webtoon anime coming out, like Noblesse and things like that. So we'll see where it goes from here. But I'm sure Crunchyroll is well aware of the lash from this. So hopefully it doesn't continue forward. But yeah, I mean, getting more into the details of the show. A lot of people, when they were talking about what they liked, we're bringing up a lot of the character stuff, and Josh in particular, your silhouette thing is actually really interesting to me, because like it's not something that people really talk about, but like character designs are easily recognizable. You know, if you just look at a silhouette or even just look at the eyes of a character, you can recognize a character. This is a pretty famous example where somebody took the My Hero Academia class, like class A, and just put their eyes on like a page, and you can recognize every single character just from their eyes. So I kind of agree. Like I felt like the character designs for some of the characters were a little boring, like a little simple. And you know, apart from Mori, like you said, they don't really stand out as much as I would expect from a shonen anime. And you know, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but at the same time, I felt like Mira especially was really boring. And Day or Dawe or however you say it, he had like an interesting arc going for him, whereas when his friend was still really sick. But after his friend died and he, he got the resolve to like keep fighting and growing stronger because like he promised his friend, I felt like his character really just was very one-dimensional after that. And same with Mira, like she didn't really change much at all after the marriage episode. Granted, it's only been one season, but like they just seem very boring and they kind of pale in comparison to Mori. And even then, Mori isn't even like amazing of a character. And I'm much more interested in all the characters around them, like everybody like in the commission, in the committee, or whatever they're called. And I want to know more about the world and people that are in the six and like his grandfather and things like that. Like they all interest me much more than the main trio, which is kind of a bad thing. So I wanted to know what you guys thought about the main trio.
Okay, so as you guys might know, I am coming from a perspective of a cosplayer and a person who has, a lot of interest in martial arts. I used to do Muay Thai, and I used to do a little bit of karate, and I don't want to talk too much about it, but I did some street fighting. But anyways, that kind of got me interested in, what the kind of values that each character each character holds. And I felt like they did a good job with Dawe. I can't really say his name. It's really hard for me. But I'm just going off of what Dewi. Dewi?
It's like Han Dewi or something like that.
I thought it was Dway or something like that.
Dway, yeah. Well, me and my nephew, we both started God of High School together, and he's one that I'm kind of taking under my wing, as far as anime that I'm introducing him to. I introduced him to the Promised Neverland and My Hero Academia. Anyways, when we were watching God of High School, everything was so bombastic and everything was so very fast paced, and it had a good bit of comedy with the first couple of episodes, and then a little bit of the bonding with the friends. But the thing is, we aside from the names being very hard for us to grasp, what we did was come up with nicknames for the characters, and we were like, okay, she's a sword girl for Mira, and then Dawe, we called him Working Man because he's literally taking like so many different jobs. And I'm like, dude, I feel you. I was working like 3 jobs, and I instantly bonded to him. But then I liked his character. I liked his backstory. I liked his motivation. And the thing that pulled me out of it was none of the other characters really stood out in terms of would I want to cosplay them? Like, would people recognize me? And would I want to cosplay them? Would it even be difficult? And it would be 0 for difficulty. Like literally, it's in your closet. You're Working Man or your sword girl. Like it's pretty instant that you'd be able to do that. And that's a kind of it lets you down as far as the character investment, because like from a cosplayer's perspective, like you might really love the character and what they represent and what they mean to you, but like if you can't bring them to life or you don't care to bring them to life, it's like on the playground, like everyone just wants to be Jin Mori, and that sucks. It sucks because you don't have the whole set, and everyone else is just left behind because homeboy working man loses his motivation, and Mira, she realizes that she doesn't need the physical sword for her to be sword girl. She can be sword girl without it, but yet she has like a glass ceiling that I feel follows the trend of Sakura in Naruto, where she's super powerful and like everyone's like, oh man, we can really depend on her. But when it comes down to it, they don't give her enough to do. And that's such a shame because we should all learn from the material that's come before and make things better. And it's really unfortunate that the that at Mappa, the director of the anime didn't decide to do it. Now, I don't know in comparison to the source material how well they flesh out the characters and stuff, but it's unfortunate. But yeah, I you won't be seeing me wearing any God of High School cosplay because unfortunately they let us down as far as character design.
Yeah, that's a
And
really interesting perspective, honestly, because like I didn't think about the character designs like a whole lot until you just pointed out that they're kind of bland.
yeah,
And usually I kind of notice that thing, like Demon Slayer, for example, they're all like beautiful, like they're all like really unique and really easily identifiable. But yeah, like I agree with you. Like I thought like Day was very interesting at the beginning, but kind of like after episode 5, he just became like this like just a very one note character. Because as bad as episode 4 was, the last scene was really good, where he like just received really bad news and was just beating the shit out of Mira. Like that was a great
yeah.
moment, but the show never leans into those kinds of moments enough. And to your point, like I have heard again, like I haven't gone very far into the webtoon, but I have heard that Mira actually was supposed to have a very, very, very important character defining moment this season, and they took it out. Basically, in Jin's fight versus Ilpio, right? Jin is actually supposed to lose, or Mori, sorry. Jin is actually his last name, so his name is Mori. Mori is actually supposed to lose that fight. And the fact that he wins was really bullshit. Just such a classic shonen trope that I thought they were trying to avoid tropes by making Ilpio the key and not Mori, right? And I was like, that's awesome. Like he's the main character, but a side character is getting the key, and they're like, gonna be more important. It's gonna be really interesting. It's gonna be like a reversal on the trope. But no, Mori still wins that fight because he's Sun Wukong or whatever. And apparently in the manhwa,
Sorry,
Ilpio's the
sorry.
box dude.
Oh, he's the Nine Tails guy.
Yeah, Nine Tails guy, like shitty Naruto.
Okay, got it. Got it. Yeah.
And apparently in the manhwa, Jin loses that fight, and then Mira actually like steps in and wins or something happens with her. I don't know the details. All I know is like they snubbed a really important moment for her, and a lot of people are really upset about that. So us feeling like she didn't get any growth actually might not be true in the source material. But yeah, we're judging the anime only, and yes, I agree with you. She stayed kind of boring. But yeah, good.
They kind of fucked, right? Because like I mentioned in the beginning, they did the biggest shonen like mistake, right? Like they did the classic DBZ thing where like you get a protagonist and you just make him so invincible and so OP to the point where everyone else is useless. Because this is not a show where it's like very tactical in the combat. Even though the choreography and everything would be cool, it's very much like you overpower me because you're stronger, or you just have a stronger stand, or whatever they call them, right? And it's inevitable that Mori was going to become some OP god, whatever, and like kind of be the leader and everything like that. But in the case of like honestly even 6 or 7 episodes, they already put Mori at such a power level. Like the scaling is like he's at such a level where everyone else just becomes very like useless. And to your point, if what's her name, Mira, had a moment like that versus Ipio or something like that, and had a purpose and had some like somewhere where they can kind of like all have a function or like have some kind of purpose, that would make them more relevant. But they very much just like introduced the characters, or somewhat introduced like interesting, had some cool fights, but like became so utterly useless by the end that like I lost all interest in like not interest in them, but like I just feel like they're very irrelevant and they're just going to be dragging the plot a lot. Because it's not, you can obviously do like a Naruto parallel, with the Sasuke and Sakura, but you know, Mori doesn't really have a rival here. It's not like he has like a Sasuke to him, like someone who's like the exact same who can kind of like scale with him as the show goes. He doesn't have like a Vegeta, right? He's just the top tier friend, and the other ones he's so much stronger than them, even with his amnesia BS, forgetting his powers, that like they become irrelevant because they can't even help him. They don't have like something that he can't do, which is a shame because I like, when I was saying I like the characters a lot, I like their synergy, even though a lot of them were not super complex. Um, as corny as a moment was of the birthday thing for Mori, where they all like surprise him with that birthday party, like I extremely enjoyed that like scene just because like they genuinely felt like friends. They got along. It felt I don't know, just genuine, and it felt like this is a good synergy between the group. But then now it's just going to become the thing where they're always going to weigh him down, and anytime they lose a fight, he has to make up for it, or they might get one or two cold moments, but they're just utterly irrelevant at this point. 13 episodes in.
I agree. Like I really like that birthday moment as well. I really wish there were more stuff like that, like where it just showed them chilling and maybe not talking about fighting, just them interacting more. And I think a more apt comparison is Ichigo and his like human friends.
Yeah.
That like get some of his powers, and then like they form their own powers out of his like overwhelming wraths, right? Like it's basically the same thing, right? Like he has like these friends that just aren't anywhere near as powerful as he is. And like they kind of set up Day to like be a rival, but then that's just immediately tossed aside.
Yep.
Like Day's like, I got your back, like you don't have to do anything alone, like I got you, we're gonna be like a tag team and duo and it's gonna be awesome. And then he's just like so much worse. And I've heard mumblings that in the webtoon Day becomes really strong. So things might change, but as it stands right now, judging it the way it is, they're very much sidelined. I agree for sure. And I mean, the villain was also like so boring, dude. He was just like, as much as I love
Who was the villain?
I love his voice.
There are so many people I fought with.
So bafflingly, right? That's the thing. Who was the villain is like asking what is Kingdom Hearts. You're gonna get a
Why? Why?
Every time, dude.
Give me a moment.
No, exactly, David. You're gonna be like, give me a moment, research, and make a compelling.
No, I
argument.
meant. No, give me an episode where I can chill.
Yeah, like that's the issue, right? Like with like this is the problem, right? So like a fundamental thing that I have with storytelling, personal taste, is if you don't give me a clear objective and people are wallowing around like flapping in a kiddie pool with aimlessness going in circles, I don't know what I'm supposed to be looking forward to. And there are moments here where it's like, okay, the bad guy is Park. And then Park is like, no, I'm actually the savior of the world. And I'm like, okay, so who's the bad guy now? And then it's like, okay, the bad guy is going to be the evil Taekwondo master guy who's actually like 36 and came from prison. And then he gets yeeted into the sky. And I'm like, okay, who's the bad guy now? And then you find out it's Juggle. And you're like, okay, what's his motive? And then his motive is just, I got beaten before. I don't want to get beaten again. And I'm like, what?
But why would you want to lose twice? That's a good.
Literally cheering.
A really shitty motivation. Like they tried to make you identify with him with a flashback, and you just don't care. Like,
No, I really don't
dude, your
care.
mom left you. Like,
Your mom. Oh.
you should care more, but you don't. And then he becomes like weird Sephiroth, and then the show's, I mean, it's just so extreme, and like all the powers. Okay, the power system. Okay. Chakryuk or whatever it's called, okay? Like
What power system?
it's so inconsistent in its, going back to design again, okay? It's so inconsistent in the way it looks because like it's kind of like stands but not really, but they don't feel as unique as stands do. And like some of them just look so bad in my opinion. Like the the Joker thing with the scythe is so lame.
It's been done. It's been done so many times.
Yeah, go ham right now.
I have excellent specific examples. So
Do it.
let's take let's take Dewi for a moment here, okay? based on the way he moves and he fights, it's very clearly karate influence. The dude has literally 4 stances, each named after one of the 4 like guardian East Asian culture animals: the tiger, the turtle, the bird, and the dragon. And what's his magic power when it activates? Magical healing water. What? You're telling me your martial art is using 4 guardian deities, and then your magic power is I use my magic water to heal people.
Hey man,
Like
a support
there's no
tank.
logical sense. There's no logical continuation. You meet another. It makes a little more sense, but it's still weird, right?
Okay,
Because her power
can
is
I say,
I shoot
Yumira-
lubus at you. It's
yeah,
like
Yumira has Lubu as her god, who is very famous for having a pole arm, and she
Yeah.
uses a sword.
like there's no continuity.
Like, I don't understand. Like, anyway, like it's just like the designs range from like really cool to just really boring, and I wish it was just more consistent in the and like the fights where like the god was like descending from the heavens and everybody was like trying to stop it, like the power. It was just so weird, dude. Like they summoned a bunch of hands.
What were the drum people for?
Yeah. Okay. So
I had
the
no
drum
idea.
they cycled through like 10 weapons, including assault rifles.
Which was pretty okay. It was kind of cool looking though.
I'm like, okay, it's like the Matrix right now meets like Urahara from Bleach.
Dude, the amount of time that Park Sejun spends holding his hands in the air. He spent 3 episodes holding his hand in the air, holding back this fucking thing, dude.
Trying to charge up the spirit bomb all
Yo, the
over again.
spirit bomb.
And then like his counterpart villain dude with the silver hair was doing the same thing. He had his hands out in front of him for like 3 episodes and was just commenting on everything around him. Was like, oh my god, he's the key. Oh my god, what's happening? And then oh my god, like Jacob ate the key and he still has his hands out. Like it was so whack.
They're using all the budget for the fights. They're like, dude, just use the same frame for a few episodes.
Oh my
It was
god.
so upsetting.
It was hilarious. I didn't know. Okay, so it was just like, okay, people complain about JoJo Part 3, Stardust Crusaders, where it's the flavor of the week, the villain of the week. This had villain of the week times like 10, because there were people that they were fighting with, and I'm like, what was the purpose of that? They had no preface, they had no weight in the fight, like no stakes were presented to the audience to where we cared about the end result. And that's so weak in the writing and or in the production. Apparently, if there's a big deviation between the source material and the anime production, I'm like, this director, I mean, the fights were amazing. I just wish that there was some substance to the fights. I saw the visual disappointment in my friends that were so hyped for it, and they were like, "Oh, dude, I'm cosplaying as soon as Corona's over, and look at this guy, I'm gonna cosplay him." And then as soon as like we got to 6 episodes in, we're, "Hey guys, you're gonna hang in there. It'll be good. It'll be good." It was literally that. People sharing in their stories like, yeah. Maybe in season 2. Hold up for season 2, guys. Keep watching.
I think season 2 is already confirmed that it's crunched as well.
Oh my!
Like, which is, like,
What do you
really
mean by crunched?
Meaning, like,
crunched
they
isn't like
have to-
gone.
No, meaning like they have to put a lot of the webtoon chapters inside of the season, like
Okay.
much more than they have.
Compressed. Okay.
Yeah, compressed. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And one of my favorite,
wow.
like quotes that I read, you know, I was like looking at discussions online and stuff that kind of summarizes the show is, watching God of High School is like catching up with your old mate, but between every episode you slam a round of shots and drink a Red Bull.
That's kind of how I felt at the time. So
Because you don't know what's happening in the next episode. It just all starts off like, what the fuck's happening? Something new happened, and someone has new power.
But
Nobody
yeah,
knows why.
exactly, yeah. But I agree with you, Josh. Like, the thing about the fights in this show is that like they are extremely well animated and like
Oh,
they're very top tier. I agree, like just from a visual perspective, but it's missing the heart. Like it's missing the storytelling told through fights. Which like
Right.
the best shonen are remembered for those fights. Like why do people remember Kakashi versus Obito, right? Yes, the hand-to-hand combat is fucking amazing in that fight, but it tells a story. right? Like all the most memorable fights tell a story, and this show doesn't do that. It's just like, oh, the character's losing. All right, he activates Chakryuk and then wins. Oh, this character's losing. All right, he activates Chakryuk and wins. This character's losing,
Yeah.
activates Chakryuk. You know, like it's just like such a classic shonen trope that just doesn't do any service, even though the fight is beautiful, right? So it
Right.
makes me appreciate it less. Like I agree that it's beautiful, but I've seen shows that have beautiful fights that also mean something. You know,
Yeah.
so
I mean-
I'm never gonna highly rank these fights because I've seen it done better.
What's
Oh yeah, and with less of a budget and less like kinetic like choreography. I mean, we could just look at okay, so All Might versus the brain guy. I forget their names. I'm really bad.
All
at
for
names.
one.
But
no.
no. Nomu. The first Nomu. Okay, this
Where he
is
does
the
100
first
punches.
time.
Yeah.
Right, he does the ora, but like he reaches his like first like tier limit, and then he's like, oh man, I'm coughing up blood, but he's like, but he remembers all the things that have gotten him to this point. You know, he has things that he's reflecting on, but there were also stakes with the children who aren't at that level to defend themselves, and he knows that he has to step up to defend the next generation. So we know what the characters are coming from, but like every time that there's someone who's like popping in, we don't know what their backstory is. We don't know, this person's just popping out of nowhere. Okay, yeah, you got your grandpa in hostage, which is highly unlikely, which turns out to be unlikely because it wasn't. And spoiler, sorry. But we're discussing with the context that everyone has watched the first season. So so like when they have the hostage of the grandpa, you know, held up and lost an arm even, and like aside from that, you're just like, okay, who is this person and what do they mean to you? It would be something super deep if this person was like a jilted lover that that didn't get a chance at Maury's grandma because she ended up going with his grandpa, and then he's like super jealous, and then he passes on that hatred onto his grandchildren, and then they have a reason to be like, oh, I'm fighting you because, but we don't know who these people are that are fighting them and what they're fighting for. It's like, okay, there's a key, we don't know what the fuck the key unlocks. It's just like that key was just thrown and discarded, but we don't know what it unlocks and what it does. We have no explanation. And yeah, it doesn't follow the tropes of people explaining things to the audience, like very, very on the nose dialogue while people are fighting. But you can do that through action. You can have some good information through these slow moments of discovery of like, oh, why are these people in this location? This location has significance. They unlock when you go into this area. Say it unlocks your charyok, or you eat this meal, or that stupid fruit. Like what the heck?
Yeah,
This
they
fruit
didn't explain
is
anything with
supposed
that.
It's weird.
I don't know. It's like this fruit is supposed to give you really bad shits, and then like if you
Yeah.
survive it, and if you
become
survive
strong.
it in less than a day, you're good. It's like what? What is this? And
Yeah.
okay, I was really lost, and I really stopped. The one character that I had hope for was Ilpio, because you know he was supposed to be the surrogate big brother, the mentor to Jin, but then it was just an ass pull for like, oh hey, now he's half Ari from League of Legends with the freaking tails, and I'm like, oh all right, I guess I'll go with this. It's just like, what? There was no reasoning behind it. There was no. It wasn't warranted. These power boosts aren't warranted through training. It's not warranted through digging it, reaching a milestone in like your personal growth. It was nothing. It was empty, and I griped so much about it because Ilpio was the first cool one that had a really unique design. He was envious of like the being the tiger cub. He has a tiger cub thing on his back, and nope, just let down. And you know, I was let down twice. First by Working Man, and next by Ninetales guy. So
I agree with you. Like the fights because like you make a good comparison with My Hero Academia, because like the thing about My Hero Academia is like they they lean into shonen tropes all the time, but like just like the show did. But in My Hero Academia, they feel earned. So like even though a lot of the fights are actually ass pulls, if you think about it, right? Like Deku versus Muscular is an ass pull. All Might versus All for One is just he just wins in one punch. All Might versus the Nomu is just him going further beyond, right? Like these are all classic shonen tropes that in a mediocre show you'd roll your eyes at, which is what I did in this show, right? But My Hero Academia changes it up by making you so invested in the characters that you don't care that it's a trope, right? Like it doesn't bother you that Deku pulls an ass pull and wins the fight because you're invested in the world.
It's because it's good character development. They have growth. They have personal growth over things that were blocking them before. Like it's internal conflict, and when that internal conflict gets overcome, that's when it feels like the ass pull is worth it. And this comes from like good writing, and you go with it, but like we don't know where these characters are coming from. We don't know what their status quo is, what they're conflicted on, what's stopping them, and that's why My Hero Academia we can go with Aspel. There was a thing on JoJo with the star finger, where Star Platinum has the ability to do the extension finger. You can't do that because we don't know, like Jotaro didn't have any growth. He didn't have any internal conflict. That it was just like he was reached some conflict, and it was opposition, and he overcame it just by changing the rules. You can't do that. You have to abide by the rules of the universe, and then also have some personal growth to have some weight to it with the characters. That's where their internal growth.
We just don't know what the rules are in this universe. That's the problem.
Right. We don't know what the rules are. We don't know what status quo is. We don't know where the characters are coming from. And aside from like Homeboy can work a lot, and he's working man.
You love him.
The problem isn't you don't know what the rules. The rules are literally the rules are dumb. Like the rule is you can unlock Chakryok through like one of three ways. Either training, a moment of inspiration, or divine intervention. This is explicitly stated in the show. But what does that do? It just enables assful storytelling, right? Because it's like, Yumira was just inspired and then became Lubu. Like, that's more or less what happened. Same crap with almost everyone else that changed, like Ilpio.
I felt like a few of the moments were okay when they got it. Like, obviously you're losing, like, again, Choppy, but like you're losing in the battle and you're like, oh, gotta look deep inside of myself, even though I've lost battles before. But this is a special loss, and I don't know.
So Ilpios didn't bother me too much in the sense of like, oh, he's on the wire, he's passing out, but he's like the symbol of learning and advancement, blah blah blah. It's just the way it was done that was a problem.
Well, okay, with Ilpio, you have to remember. So Ilpio is probably the one example that I didn't have a problem with because. Number one, it's already heavily implied that he had it all along because like he already had the power, and it's very clear that he was just testing Mori and wanted to teach him shit during the fight, and he really wasn't trying until he activated it.
Yeah.
So with him, like, I mean, he outright says he's like, "Good job, Mori. You like adapted to the situation, but I'm not here to lose." Yeah. He just says that and then activates his power. So it's very clear that through training he already got it behind the scenes. So him getting it wasn't an ass pull, but almost every other character getting it was pretty bad. Ilpio I didn't have a problem with. In fact, I loved the fact that he was supposed to be the key. I thought that was really cool, but then, again, like Mori just becomes Sun Wukong, and that's way more important than the key in the end.
So the key point I wanted to actually get to was like not even this. It's like all this is made even more frustrating by the show giving one really good example of fight storytelling, and that's the Feng Shui guy versus the North Korean Taekwondo guy.
Like, remind us which one that is.
So the Feng Shui guy, right? He was the guy in very Asian clothes. He had slits for eyes, and he had a conversation with Mori on like how he was the first fight, and he wanted to fight Mori, and that he won't lose to someone who fights with like a dishonorable fighting style.
Oh yeah.
Just the dreadlocks dude who like. He like has his arms tied. He disrespects his opponents. He literally steps on people. He's like from prison, and then like through flashbacks you learn he got taught like a North Korean style of martial art that was used for warfare.
That was the first
So-
time Mori like stepped into a fight, right?
Yeah, that's like how it ended. But like the story that fight told was really good. Like the main guy was fighting with like very graceful movements and form, and then the antagonistic guy was like for the entire first time he's like, I bet you won't make me have to use my hands, and he was just fighting brutally with his feet, and then he eventually makes him use his hands, and then he turned into an animal. Like it showed like, you know, like how much like this guy was fighting for preservation of honor and his morals, and this other guy was just basically fighting to assert his dominance, right? So like, granted, I'm not saying this is anything groundbreaking or amazing, but this in comparison to later fights, like dude with a scythe smacking another guy that can fly and some really potty mouthed chick with a gun, like in comparison.
That fight was really disappointing. That one that you're talking about, that latter one, where it was just like 4 Chakriak users just going at it. I was like, dude, this is just laser beams, and I'm just not about it. I'm not about it. Like, it might be well animated from an objective perspective, but it's just subjectively so boring in comparison to like dudes throwing hands, you know?
Yeah. Like if
but-
everything built on the building blocks that earlier fight showed in terms of like story quality, it definitely would have gone places. But it didn't do that.
Yeah. I don't know.
I wanted
what are
to
your other thoughts? Yeah.
I wanted to bring up how many forms or different powers did we see Mori get in the course of 13 episodes? Because people like to shit on Dragon Ball, and I get it, but I love it. Now,
He
See where
did
this is going.
form
I think
changes.
it was something like 7.
because
Just going off the top of my head.
yeah, he had his base form, and then his base form was just great Taekwondo, which is cool. And then he had the Dragon Kick, which even if he kind of had that power already, that's kind of like, oh look, his new ability. He had the
Yeah, he just makes his own like fighting stance or like kind of.
He like mimics
That's
other
like
people.
form.
That's like his thing.
Copycat.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of just like that's another like, oh,
Well-
I'm always gonna be better than you.
I would be okay. I would be okay with mimicry if he wasn't also Sun Wukong. Like if he like didn't have Chakryuk, but he was
Dude.
like able to like mimic other people's powers and like make them unique for himself or something like that, that would have been awesome.
No, he mimicked
no.
the god power, like in another
Yeah.
life.
I'm like, wait, I'm like, but what? No, this is way worse. So,
Did-
but yes, he does a lot of shit.
His the pressure points, which were
Yeah,
kind of
pressure
cool,
points,
I guess. And then obviously he had the god hand push down. Then he had his extension pull. He's just Goku, obviously, but like, did you? Okay,
He's the Monkey King. Goku's the Monkey King.
yeah,
God
but
hand push
Goku was
down.
Monkey King in Dragon Ball, and then they just said, "Fuck it, dude."
Yeah,
Um,
the God Hand pushdown thing is just part of his Sun Wukong power, though. So
Yeah, but
that's
was-
kind of like a precursor to his like final form.
that was the god hand pushing down was cooler than the extension pull, because the extension pull wasn't that cool to me. I don't know about you guys, but
So for
Unless
me,
it's below the waist.
I like
God.
I liked some of the choreography with the extension pull.
Yeah.
Because like in a lot of anime forget the extension happens really fast. It's
Mhm.
not like, oh, I have to wait for this to like extend. It just happens. So like they did a lot of creative stuff with the extension pull size changes in that fight, which I liked. So that I was fine with. But I agree from like a visual like awe thing, it definitely in defense of why that is, I mean, at that, it's a pull, right? There's only so much you can do. It's a giant.
But
stick.
like he can't like I get it. You don't want to just say, "Oh, you can shoot fire out of your pole," right? But like I don't know. Just with everything we had seen so far, and like I think it's a cool power to have, but like it just felt so underwhelming when he got like this. I was like, "Yo, what? Yo, what's coming out?" And it's just a big pull. Now it's a little pull that can be a long pull. I'm like, come
that
on.
is the pull. Like that's what the pull can do.
Yeah.
But the bigger
That's part of Sun
issue
Wukong's
is,
character, though. Yeah.
yeah, like
That's
the
whack.
isn't the
God
pull
damn it.
flame, right? Like the problem is it's juxtaposed with literally the gate of heaven and hell opening, a giant god falling out of it, a bunch of Bayonetta angels swarming everything, random homeless dude jumping through a magic circle, becoming a tied up demon biting said sword. Like like we were exposed to just so much
Oh
ass
yeah.
bullshit.
That
Right?
that
Like,
was
we were inundated with so much dumb stuff that when we saw the poll, it felt like it kind of fell on its face, sort of.
yeah. That's
The
what I
reason
was.
is we got showed so much crap, and we couldn't even process anything.
Honestly, the poll felt more grounded to me than any of the other powers.
Yeah,
Because it actually hit the ground.
Yeah, exactly, right? Because it's actually like a physical thing that has weight to it at least,
Yeah.
and he's like swinging it around. Whereas like it's not a laser beam. You know what I mean? Like there's no weightlessness to it, so at least like it had impact. So I like that. But yeah, it definitely it's really OP. Like you're just like always safe because you just extend it so fast and just be always like you're like ranged and melee at the same time somehow. Like so
I was gonna
but
ask.
yeah.
Oh.
No, you gonna.
I was just gonna like kind of like ask like overall, if this show ended at the scene where he was like the god of high school tournament has ended, right? If that was the end of the season and they took everything beforehand, which I think at least personally, I enjoyed the first half a lot better than the second half, and they just paced that better. Do you guys think this would be a better show?
It would probably be a better show, but I still probably wouldn't like it that much. Yeah, good.
I was just gonna say, like, if I had to, this is knowing nothing about the source material, but like if I was in charge of pacing this thing, right?
Yeah.
I think we would have had a lot more time to digest literally everything if you had one season being regional, one season being national, and then like starting the season after with all this dudes falling out of the sky, laser beams, shitty Sephiroth, gigantic pole stuff.
So you would have regionals be a full like 13 episode season.
Think about how much content we would plow through in each episode.
I think it is.
Right?
Like it was supposed to be. Like the way it's paced in the webtoon, like that's a major part of the webtoon, like the early part of the webtoon. So people thought like the entire season was gonna be like the tournament.
Not 150 chapters.
Yeah, and then it was just everything was just squeezed in, and the tournament was over in episode 11. That's the episode you're referencing, right? Where he's like at the end, he's like God of High School is officially over.
Is it 11? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, so that's 11. So that's still like most of the show. You know what I mean? So like for me, my favorite episodes were 1 through 3, skip 4. I like 5. And then I guess I kind of like the last fight in 13, but I still don't think it's a good episode. So really for me, it's like the first like 5 to 7 episodes, excluding 4, I thought was like the peak of the show. And then it just started introducing Chakryuk more, just more laser beams, and just the fights didn't have as much impact for me. So I still probably would feel very similar the way I do now. I just wouldn't have the added confusion of what the fuck is going on from episode 12 and 13.
Yeah, I think I thought it started. I thought that scene was earlier and it felt like a good natural close. But then again, I think just in 2 episodes that it felt like 5 episodes. So I don't know.
Those 2 episodes were like, let's just throw all this shit at you and you won't understand anything. Like America even launches nukes at it, remember?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like
So
they
good.
make America just being like, we're not good at hand-to-hand combat, so we're just gonna nuke them. Yeah, that's what we're good for, America.
Well, this is probably go
But-
international, right? Like
Also,
the tournament.
The president in America was Iron Man. I don't know if you guys caught that, but the president in America was literally Iron Man. And apparently in the webtoon it's Obama, and they changed it from Obama to Iron Man in the anime.
That's
Wow.
hilarious. They just didn't want Trump no matter what.
Yeah.
I knew that we were gonna be in trouble when the show's called God of High School, and they have a fighter that was way out of high school.
No. They had a great explanation.
No, I knew that it was gonna be dumb, and I'm like, no, all right, well, I guess we're gonna hold out for God of College, because.
But why was it high school?
Literally, the name makes no sense.
Nothing.
Dude.
Nothing.
This has nothing to do with the high school. The participants aren't all high schoolers. It just the name.
The age doesn't even matter though. It's not like they needed young people to release their like powers. No, that you could have been. I don't know, dude. This is a whack world martial arts tournament.
There was a 40-something-year-old guy who was taking high school super late in his life just to like better himself, which is like good on him. I actually really like this story. And the dude had workman powers. Like he literally had like working man rice bag.
That was
toss.
cool. Like I kind of
so
like
neat.
that, but like
I mean, she got dumped, but you know, it was neat.
No, yeah, he got dunked on.
Yeah, it was so
Like,
cool though.
I don't know.
But
No, he was really cool. I
For
mean, and they
real.
also didn't make him like really handsome either. They made him look like I'm 40
Yeah.
plus. I'm
Yeah.
holding it together by you know, hopes and dreams, but you know, I'm still trying.
that.
which,
Yep.
which is fine, but it brings to question. Okay, then what's the point of the high school restriction?
I know. Maybe
It's
it's
not
like
my-
Bleach, where we don't know what the meaning of Bleach is.
No, Bleach has a lot of meaning. There's a lot of deep thematic points.
What?
Yeah, you know, it's an allegory. That's my go-to thing for everything.
It's
Even
not
Bleach,
even an
though.
acronym.
Dude, even Bleach, okay? Even if just compare Bleach, all right, for a second, okay?
Okay.
Apart from all the style over substance stuff that Bleach does have and is very notorious for, the
And
fucking
Watcher and
first
Chippy.
arc of Bleach is great. Like,
Oh, it's so good.
the Soul Society arc is so good, and it helps to at least become invested in this huge cast of characters. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And they throw so much exposition at you about the powers and how Soul Society works, but you understand it all because it's well paced, right?
Yeah.
So for all of Bleach's flaws, like that first part of Bleach is fucking great, dude. You know, like
yeah, what is it, like 50 episodes? Something like
yeah.
that?
Well, I think it might be a little bit more than that, but yeah,
Yeah.
that
It's like
that first
65,
couple arcs
70.
is
Yeah.
really good. Yeah. So
Yeah,
even comparing it to that,
don't
it's like
know.
it could have been so much better.
I really wanted to know like what everyone was going to do when they had the first major death because of one of the fighters or people that were actually like in a combatant with the announcer guy. When he and his family was taken out, I was like, oh dang, this is gonna be like crazy fighting from here on. No, I mean there was no one really trying to avenge him, and that's where I felt like, all right, well, that was my point of, all right, I'm just gonna turn my brain off. I'm gonna turn my heart off because I'm not invested into this. And I think we all had different points where you're just like, all right, just get the popcorn going and we're gonna enjoy it for what it is. What I was curious, like for you guys, what were your points that you were just like, all right, I'm gonna enjoy it for what it is and not really look too deep?
I mean, I think I was always like that from the beginning, but at the same time, see, like, okay, trust me, like, I have a lot of shows that I'm totally fine turning my brain off and having fun with it. Okay, like Black Lagoon is a fucking great example of this, right? Like, I'm totally fine turning my brain off, enjoying that show for what it is, right? But with this show, even me doing that, I'm still noticing all the flaws, even when I'm trying really hard to ignore it. They're just really hard to ignore in this show, for me, personally. So even with me trying to turn my brain off and have fun with it, I just couldn't for like the second half of it.
I didn't give up hope really, because like I like, you know, I'm big on taking like something that like a lot of people shit on, like is style over substance, and trying to like, grasp some stuff and say there's more merit than there is. Like I'm a big like I do that for a lot of things, because a lot of stuff I like enjoy realistically is that. So I kept like hope, because like I thought there were some points right with like some of the individual like, you know, stories of the tournaments of those characters, and I was like, okay, you know, like they each have like some kind of backstory or something somewhat interesting, or just some aspect, or even if it's generic shonen, just like, you know, friendship power, something like that, right? I was like, okay, there's some merit, but I really think it's that last 3 or 4 episodes that just like absolutely like, you know, went insane. That, you know, I realized that even it was so clear that they even gave up to an extent and were just rushing towards an ending that they didn't, you know, they didn't deserve. So I think that's when I kind of gave up merit. But that doesn't mean like I don't think it could be fixed. I still have kind of a lot of heart in this show. Like I still have belief in this show, and I'd be excited for a season 2. But I'd be like obviously like cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, and I try to find the good, like even in the bad, you know, in any show, like, you know, because you know a lot of people will, and I don't think I'm at the extreme that David is, but generally speaking, in groups, I tend to enjoy stuff more than other people, and then David probably a little bit more so than me. So like, you know, when people tell me about anime that they don't like, I usually like it a lot more than they do. Like for example, right now, Rent a Girlfriend. Okay, like a lot of my friends that watch it
Yes.
fucking hate it. Like straight up, they really don't like it. They think the main character is bland and boring and is a simp or whatever. But like, I'm finding a lot of good in the show. I don't think it's amazing, but I'm finding a lot of good in it. So I'm the type of person that, you know, doesn't shy away from doing that, and I can respect something for having good moments, even if overall I don't like it. But this show just spits in your face so much that I just can't. I can't do it. I can't do it for the show as much as I would like to. You know, if there were more storytelling oriented fights, I could at least say, dude, I like the fights because they made me feel something and they were well animated. But right now, the only good thing the show has is the music is good and the fights are beautiful, but they don't mean anything. And that's all I can say about it. I can't say anything else good about it. Like legit, I cannot.
Yeah.
Big
What about you, Ryan? Did you have a moment that you felt like you were gonna change your main outlook and just turn your brain off for the
So
anime?
I kind of turned my brain off on that 4th episode with the phrasing thing. I turned it off. I'm like, all right, this is kind of weird. I'm like, all right, Mira looking kind of cute, and then I'm like, nah, this is getting a little weird. At the same time, there's like no actual impact. It made no sense for it to happen. So I'm like, okay. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna give it some more time. And then once Ippo became, you know, the key in that fight between him and Mori, I'm like, okay, you know, maybe things are actually progressing. And then for some fucking reason, they had to do the whole Dragon Ball Z thing where Mori's just like, oh hey, I'm gonna freaking summon the hand of God and smack your bitch ass down to the ground. And I'm like, all right, that's it for me, because that just shows that like nobody's going to be able to become stronger than him at that point. They're just gonna keep on raising his level cap. So I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna turn it off and watch the fights and see how, pretty explosions happen. And then one other thing, that one guy, I forgot his name. Why did he turn into a fucking demon out of everything? Like as soon as, like, he was in the hospital or whatever after that fight with the dread haired guy, and the key unlocked or whatever, he started like freaking the fuck out for some reason, and then he turned into a demon, which I still don't understand why. And then as soon
Oh,
as
yeah. Was it the guy that
Sorcerer's
that had the
Apprentice.
girl like in like infused in him?
yeah, something like that or whatever, like the one who had like the master or whatever, I'm like, what the fuck's happening?
It was the dude, this grandson of the guy who teleported everybody out of the city,
Yeah,
who
one of
lost
the things, yeah.
he lost to Jay Gall in the tournament. And then he turned into a demon.
But why is that? Why did that happen?
I think they showed it, but I don't fucking
Exactly.
remember. I don't fucking remember, honestly.
Like, one, why did that
Exactly.
happen? And then two, it's like, and then why did he start even freaking out even more when Mori summoned the hand of like God on Ippo? He like freaked out even more. And then when freaking Mori became like full blown Son Goku, the guy who literally can summon God himself was like shitting his pants. And I'm like, okay, now we just have like ascended past that level scaling that just shouldn't even exist anymore. I mean, it shouldn't exist to begin with. But now he's like, oh hey, I can summon God, and I'm like shitting my pants because he is God right now. He's not borrowing any power. It's his own power. He's just God, and I'm like, why? Why?
Yeah. There's a lot just not explained well, dude. Like I don't blame you. Like there's a lot you're just like, all right, I see what's happening, but I do not understand.
I'm like,
Um,
what do I do from here? It's just like everything was just so hard to like keep track of. And like if I watched the episode before you, I'm just like messaging you. I'm like, dude, you're not gonna have a good time with this episode.
yeah, because I definitely probably hated it the most in our group. So Ryan would always message me because he would watch the episode way before me, and he'd message me and be like, "Yeah, I don't think you're gonna like this one, man." I'm like, okay.
It's like you're gonna have a bad time. Like I don't know.
That's fairly accurate.
And then as soon as he like,
He's
I think
gonna
it was,
have a bad
I think it
time.
was the one episode whenever he was like, when Ippo and Mori were fighting, and he summons the hand of God or whatever, and I'm like, Ish, I
Yeah.
don't think you're gonna like this episode. And he's like, Ryan, you're right, that was fucking terrible. What the fuck is this?
in an extremely strange way. Even my emotional progression of like appreciating the opening song changed over the course of this friggin' anime being out, and I'm just like, is there nothing in this I can just enjoy for its whole existence? Must everything be tainted? God of High School, why?
I still like the opening, even though unfortunately it looks like Tyler Carter got canceled. So that kind of
Just ignore that he's the singer. That's okay. It's a good opening. A lot of
Wait,
people
what
did not
got
like. A lot of
canceled?
people don't like the opening. Actually, did you know
I
that?
don't know.
What?
I'm gonna ask about what happened to that guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was looking like before the podcast today. I was just reading a bunch of discussion threads. So I was like reading from like episode 1. A lot of people did not like the opening. I was like, oh, I thought it fucking bopped immediately, but I guess it just doesn't have the universal appeal that like your standard pop rock openings do, where like characters just running into the horizon and the background is like you say, you know. So that's probably why.
I mean, it's not J rock. Like I
Yeah,
thought it was like super unique and it like fit the
house.
like hip hop kind of electronic vibe that the show had. So
Yeah.
and the closing, I like the closing, even though sometimes it was really like offbeat to like what just happened.
Yeah, I thought it was good, but then again, my tolerance for like music is a little different. But yeah, a lot of people apparently did not like it, and I was kind of surprised. But yeah,
I'm one of those people. I
Yeah.
personally did not like
Yep.
the intro. It
I think you were the majority actually, and we're the minority.
I don't know. Like I mean, I like music even though I can't understand the lyrics, but it was it didn't kick for some reason. It didn't kick it, as far as like my emotions. Usually when I get into a show that I start liking and I don't like the intro song, usually it grows on me. I didn't like the intro song for Dororo, but then that song grew on me. I didn't like the song for My Hero Academia. I think it's by Overworld,
Our
but then that
future is
song
so
grew
good.
on me. Yeah, and then I
fucking
you
love
know
that song.
it's wild like how much like hearing that song like over and over again, and I'm just like, wow, this is actually like really good. And even better if I listen to it on like a really good speaker, because you hear all the nuances of like music and layering, and you're just like, wow. But I just don't like the it was like,
Point to your favorite.
I don't know, it was too synthy, too not too synthy, it was too technical and like a mashup of stuff that just didn't work for me. And
I
then
understand.
also as far as like the intro, and I understand that they were going for something really different, and yes, this is coming from a webtoon, but I kind of look to the intro to in some sort of way tie into what the characters are about. You know how they clue that into like little Easter eggs of what's going to happen or what this characters are about. I didn't see anything of value that I could take from the intro, and I think that's another layer for storytelling that that falls flat with God of High School with intro. And as much as it was Mappa that created this or
Yeah.
produced this, right?
Yep.
Mappa, I mean, Mappa did Dororo, and it did like a bunch of anime that was on Amazon Prime, and I'm it did Vinland Saga. I mean, beautiful
That
stories.
was wit. That was wit.
Oh, it was Wit. Okay, my bad.
You
I
ripped
just
season
remember
4.
like I remember. Yes, I am. I remember seeing like their Mappa, was it Mappa's the one they had like a motorcycle intro for Amazon Prime, and I was just like, that's really odd. But every time I hear like
that's just their animation.
That's
thing.
just
Their
their
animation
animation,
thing
yeah.
is on motorcycles. That's
right, and so like anytime that like you hear these auditory clues or these auditory signifiers of like, oh, this is related to this, you instinctively like it more, because I don't know if it's what's that test um, where they have like a sound effect that's related to something that is like a good thing, and they tested it on like
Pavlov's.
a dog or a cat.
Pavlov?
Pavlov's?
Yeah.
Yeah. With that, it didn't train me to like it more because it didn't bring any depth to the anime. It was just like a whole bunch of, you know, things that dragged across the screen, couple animations, lots of splash of color. There was a whole bunch of like, it looked like it looked like an in between animation or kind of just like a montage of things happening, like a CSI episode. I'm just like, this stuff doesn't mean anything to me. It's just gibberish. It has a bunch of symbols that don't mean anything. And I guess in a way, it was kind of a reflection of how I felt about the anime as a whole. No, no bad. No, I'm not taking down Mappa in a down a peg at all. I feel it was down to the director and it was down to the adapter for the webtoon that I didn't like it. That's what it boiled down to.
Yeah, primary the like them having to squeeze in a bunch of like chapters into like one episode and stuff like that. It's not actually Mappa's fault. It's actually Crunchyroll's fault. Like Mappa just did the best they could with what they had, honestly. And like given the crunch they had to go through for this, like they did a pretty good job, all things considered. But yeah, I wouldn't blame them. I mean, they usually hit very consistent products, at least recently. And yeah, I mean, like to your favor, I think a lot of those openings you mentioned, like Oddworld, and whatchamacallit, Fire, the songs, like the full songs, are much better than the cut down opening song. Especially Odd Future.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah, because
I love the saxophone.
Yeah, the saxophone. Yeah, exactly what I was gonna say.
Saxophone, I'm wailing, dude. I'm just
Yeah,
like, oh yeah, let's go.
Yeah, like the full song is really good, but they had to cut it for that. And I like the full song for the God of High School 1 2 Contradiction. The full song's pretty good as well. So a lot of these openings, I try not to judge them too much based on like just the cut down song. But yeah, I know this one wasn't for everybody. And yeah, we all wish like Mappa had full resources for this and didn't have to like squeeze so much crap into it. But yeah, I think they did the best they could, and hopefully season 2 is like not as bad. But there have been rumors that they're forced to crunch chapters for that as well.
That's so sad.
Is this
Yeah.
Crunchyroll's first like fully sponsored anime or like fully, I don't know, publisher anime?
No, I think Tower of God.
No,
was
they've had like another. Didn't they have like a fully produced anime, or not anime? Well, like, an animated series, something Spice.
They produced Tower of God as well before this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which is also a webtoon, right? So it kind of follows the same, like, okay, you'd hope that, since that didn't do terribly, I think that show has its own flaws compared to this, but the pacing was not one of them. And I think they did crunch for that, but the crunch was actually not as severe. But there is a pattern of crunching for both of these webtoons. So that doesn't really bode well for the future, because like stuff like Noblesse is about to be adapted.
Yeah,
that's a really, really popular webtoon. So if they mess that up, dude, they're done. Like after messing up God of High School, if they mess up Noblesse, oh my god, like fans are gonna riot. Like I'm telling you,
looks like
that is a very beloved webtoon.
That's a little concerning because like I just went to their website, right, and it looks like there's a couple shows that are Crunchyroll originals. Crunchyroll originals is what they call it, and it looks like it started in 2020, I think. So it's like something they're gonna try to like go forth with for properties like like what they said, because I think going after webtoons was a brilliant idea, but
Another example of Crunchyroll originals that kind of fell on its face was apparently High Guardian Spice, that was an original produced by Crunchyroll and like their own animators, their own writers. It's like it wasn't. I don't think it was based on anything like else. It was just like their original animation, and I'm not a fan of like their artwork for it. Also, this is also coming from me not liking Steven Universe.
I was about to say it looks exactly like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to talk bad about things that, but I just don't like it, and it's unfortunate that Crunchyroll is on this trend, but at least they're trying new things differently and they're giving things a chance in new avenues. Like not a whole lot was done like or tapped into with Korean made productions or works of art that are adapted. So I like that they're doing that, and I feel like that is worthy of applause. And who knows? they might be doing some other stuff, you know. So I'm hopeful, and I mean there Mappa it's I don't think it'll hurt Mappa too much. I mean it's beautiful. If you were to make a montage of things that they produced with God of High School, out of context, well, I mean the whole thing is not fully in context either. So if they were to just make a sizzle reel of what they can do in Flex, like Mappa has like no sky's the limit, you know. So I'm hopeful for what they do next season. Maybe they'll get double the episodes and can flesh things out more. Because you know they tend to do that. They did that with My Hero Academia. It was like first 12 episodes and then it was like 24, 26. So yeah, maybe that'll happen.
Yeah, I think it's like it's obvious, but it's like it's cool that Crunchyroll is becoming a big enough thing where they can have, you know, be a producer for a lot of anime and themselves, especially considering they're West Coast. I know they outsource the work and everything, um, but it's cool to have like a platform for anime that's West, you know, it's American based and is able to do all these things and, you know, fund these projects. But obviously they were nervous and they went for a look. We can afford 13 episodes. We'll go to a really highly regarded studio who honestly has a great track record, and this is like, I mean, looking at their future track record, they have a lot of great stuff coming. Um, but yeah, obviously they just were like, yo, let's go big or go home. We don't want to play something safe and like play a long game. Like, we'll just get something out. Will bring us instant money. They've been like, I'm not sure if you guys follow them, but I follow them like on a lot of platforms, and they've been like advertising a lot of God of High School merch. That, you know, they put their name in the show, which is cool. Like, I like how they have like their self marketing placements and everything, because that's, I mean, that's deserved to a degree because it wasn't like in your face too much. But yeah, I think they were really trying to bank on this. Is like they're big shonen, so they're like, okay, like they lost track of what was important, which happens in a lot of media.
100%. I can definitely see that happening, and I did like the little sponsors, like on the ring and everything.
Yeah.
That said Crunchyroll. Yeah, that was a nice touch. I liked it.
The fake ad.
Yeah, I actually felt like that or that kind of IRL insertion was kind of a cool nod.
Yeah.
Kind of like SoftBank on what's that? Tiger and Bunny.
Oh yeah.
C Max. That Max commercial.
Is there anything else you guys want to talk about? Because I think we've kind of hit like all the major controversies with this. We didn't really talk about specifics in the episodes, because I mean there's a lot of weird shit, like the person that grants the wish at the end and then turns into a little girl or whatever afterwards, and all the random crap that we don't even understand. But
Stupid big mouth.
Yeah, I know that's I know that that's the premise of like the whole tournament of like you get your wish.
yeah,
But I would like it more if there were some cheaters that were able to get that wish before everyone else somehow, and then they would have like some kind of monkey's paw thing happen, and you know they could do a lot with that concept, and like make the world so much more richer and make it like I don't know. There's a lot of good things that you could pick and choose from, but I mean, the thing that I would probably like to bring up is the wedding episode. I felt it like really pumped the brakes on things. I would just like to
That was my favorite episode.
kind of
yeah, you're not wrong. I mean,
I'm sure.
that
pumped the brakes
episode,
in a weird way.
that episode and episode 12 are by far the biggest poorly rated episodes out of the entire season by a significant margin. So don't worry,
Insane.
you are not alone in those thoughts. So
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I'm like, okay, this is one where Mira gets her story fleshed out, and we get to know about her uncle. Her uncle, you know, took care of her and stuff, which is cool. But like, I felt like it was such a departure from it, and it felt like it was taken from the pages of what's that's Frozen, where she like meets up with some guy who appears to be was it Hans, the guy that was supposed to be good in Frozen, but then he ends up being like the backstabber to Anna, right? And I was just like, this is paralleling Frozen a whole lot, and then it just didn't do anything with it. Like the guy got the sword anyway, and then the sword ended up going to another guy that was unrelated, and I was just like, all right, that was not even justified. And I don't know. I just felt exhausted from it because it was they put so much effort into building up this tangent plot line, and didn't build up Mira's character much beyond like, oh, okay, she doesn't need it. But like I having a marriage, and it was just weird. It was just so weird. I don't know.
It was literally no one here will disagree with you. It did not work. It was not a good episode in any way, except for the last 5 minutes where it shows Day beating the shit out of her because he's upset. You know, that part was great. But
Yeah.
the whole rest of the episode was like, dude, I don't care about any of this. And she like gives her sword away too. And I'm just like, what is happening right now?
Yeah. I don't know. That was supposed to be her ties to her family lineage, and it was just like, well, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. And then, okay, in terms of like her getting beat up by Dawe, I mean, it was good for the sense that it really compelled, like, and it hit home how much his friendship really impacted him and how broken up he was and how he wasn't himself. So in that sense, like that him fighting Mira to that degree where he's like making her bleed out of her like torso, I think that was a really strong note. Not to say that we're like, oh yeah, beat her up because she's like a dumb character. I think that's also worth noting.
Yeah. No, of course. No, it was more the emotion behind like him being like uncharacteristically brutal.
Right.
Is what was interesting, right? And
right.
Yeah. It just wasn't leaned into, honestly, because even when Jin fought him in the next episode, or Mori fought him in the next episode, he wasn't that brutal. Like he was in like I don't care mode, but it just the same impact was not there when he was fighting Mori.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I would also like to know, like, and maybe this will be answered in the next season, but like, what's the extent of how much control that the guy with the X on his forehead has over the fighters because of the bracelet that has like the microbots or whatever? That's what I would like to know also, because that is some level of like control and stuff, and a caveat to the fighting that goes on that, you know, could have a dark twist underlying behind it. But yet again, another thing that wasn't explored. But
I can speak a little on this, but I don't know if people want to know. But
yeah. Okay.
All I'm gonna say is, if you don't want to be racked with disappointment, I advise not assuming things are hyper intelligent. That is all.
Oh, dang it.
Because you're talking about stuff, and I'm like, the tone of the show is not psych horror. Like, they're not gonna implement it. Like, it's not like, I appreciate it, Ryan, because I or Josh, I love the fact that you like try to look for the depth and stuff, but you're trying to find gold in like a goldfish bowl with sand.
The show's not that deep. Like, it's just not gonna be that deep going forward.
Yeah, it feels good to set up like these world things, but yeah, you guys are right.
It's like DBZ, you know, DBZ's not that deep, but everybody still likes it. Like, you know, you just gotta accept it for being like, you know, doesn't have to explore complex themes or anything like that to be enjoyable.
The whole appreciation of the Red Ribbon Army, and then like when androids were hit, man, that was just like real dark and real deep of like, whoa. That for me as a kid, that was mind blowing. And then also the fact that I guess I can look at the show and equate it to what the Goku Black was to Dragon Ball Super. Just kind of fizzled out.
Right, yeah. Well,
like all this potential and it doesn't go anywhere. I mean, that's the anime as a whole, I think, for God of High School.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I pretty much said what I have to say about God of High School. I'll be looking forward to those cosplays, guys, out there.
I I'm glad we all
Yeah,
agreed though. I mean, I think consensusly, is that a word? Con-
it is
okay.
now.
Yeah. I ruined it. I was gonna make a joke. It wasn't gonna be funny, and if I can't even speak, why even make the joke?
Wait, were you gonna say about like filling out people's census?
No, that would be smarter. I was just gonna say we all liked it or
Okay.
some stupid shit.
By the
Uh,
way, just so you guys are aware, if you guys are planning on like reading the webtoon or waiting for more seasons, if you guys are ever curious about a character, do not, I repeat, do not go to their wiki page, because every single character's wiki page has like their final form in the picture. So just do not
Ooh.
go to their wiki, okay? I'm telling you right now, I spoiled myself accidentally several times. So,
Oh, okay.
I
That's good
look
to know. That's good to know. Yeah.
I looked
yeah,
at
Right.
the latest chapter because I got a notification, and I haven't read anything. So I looked at chapter 453, bro. I have no
no
idea,
idea.
no
Yeah.
idea.
The show
I like
definitely
started
changes drastically. So
I like started looking things up just because realistically, I mean, everyone here knows I have enough trouble keeping track of the stuff I like, let alone the stuff I'm curious about. So it's like, eh. So I just kind of deep dive looked into things, and the more I learn, the more I'm like, Crunchyroll, why? Like this would have made you easy money. Why you do this? I don't understand half these decisions you're making.
But
Yeah,
yeah, if there's nothing else, I think we can call it there. Unless anybody else wants to add
Looking
anything.
upward and onward. Uh,
The
so for next time we'll be covering K,
Yeah, first
Special
season of
K.
K. It's gonna be the next episode. Yeah, Special K.
depends
that
when
real?
this episode drops.
all right.
Yeah, and we'll have the full crew for that. Nate has not seen God of High School, which is why he's not in this episode. And we may do a special episode about the boys. We're not sure yet, which will be our first non-anime. So we'll see. We'll see how things pan out. But thanks everybody for tuning in. Take it easy.